Hello and welcome to Crom Cooks, the only channel dedicated to teaching you how to do improv cooking at home. This episode is dedicated to all the meal preppers out there, because I had this package of ground bison, which would be great for making a large batch of something on a Sunday and then eating that for the rest of the week. And the obvious candidate for that would be a giant pot of chili. However, I've been learning a lot more about Cajun cooking recently, so I want to apply some techniques from that cuisine to add a twist to the classic chili recipe. Many Cajun recipes start with what they call the Holy Trinity, which includes bell peppers, I have yellow, orange, and red here, and also an onion and celery. Whoa, get back here. These three ingredients are often used in a similar way as a mirepoix is used in classic French cooking. The only difference is that Cajun recipes call for bell peppers and French recipes call for carrots. And whichever you use, this is an excellent way to add a base of diverse aromatic flavors to a dish. Now, most chili recipes need some kind of tomato base, and I like to use a can of San Marzano tomatoes because they have a pretty healthy dose of acidity to them. And for spiciness, I strongly recommend Chipotle peppers and its sauce, because it also adds a deep complexity of smokiness to the chili. Now, the last major ingredient I want to add is this medley of wild rice, which is based on another twist from Cajun cooking that I want to apply to the chili to help make it a little bit more unique. And for those of you who know Cajun cooking really well, you can see exactly where this is going, because there's only one dish in which rice is one of the most important ingredients. And for everyone else, you just gotta wait a few more seconds to discover that, with all these ingredients combined, I made Jachalaya, a recipe for jambalaya, but based on ingredients and flavors that are used in chili. Now let's check out how to make it. First up, we gotta prep our veggies. That's gonna include slicing the celery lengthwise down the middle, keeping the white part intact, applying that to all the celery, rotating them, gathering them together, and then chopping them into a small to medium dice. Moving on to the onion, make several slices vertically, then across to create a small to medium dice. Now, bell peppers are tricky because you gotta unlock the flavor, which can only be done by spinning them in the right sequence. Isn't that right, Jibo? What do you know? Let's try it again. Don't worry if they fall on the floor. That's even more flavor. Alright, I'm starting to get the hang of it. Big money, big money. Nope. Alright, last try. And flavor unlocked. See? Told you, Jibo. Now, let's get back to cooking, which is going to involve slicing these bell peppers around their core to avoid the seeds. And once we have these lovely pepper petals, we're going to slice them lengthwise using your knuckle to guide the blade to prevent you from cutting yourself. Let's see that from another angle. This time with the bell pepper strips, notice how my knuckle is the closest thing to the blade, so that as I move it back, as long as I cut straight down, it ensures that I will never accidentally cut myself. Heading over to the stove, the first thing I'd like to do is brown the ground bison that I have. So that's going to include squishing it down and getting a nice even layer, and then seasoning it. That's going to include salt, some black pepper, and then other flavors that are classic in chili, such as chili powder, paprika, and of course cayenne pepper. Once you have all those, mix them together, and keep stirring the bison until eventually it gets evenly browned. Remove that from the pot, and then move on to the real moneymaker of this recipe, which is a dark roux. This begins by adding 1/3 of a cup of oil, followed by an equal amount of flour. A lot of times when you're cooking in the kitchen, I encourage you to multitask. This is not one of those times. With a roux, you have to be vigilant, constantly stirring it to prevent it from burning. I like to take a whisk and just use small little circles to move the flour around, and as you rotate around the pot, you dig into the corners and get every little piece to make sure it's moving. And before long, your mixture will start to darken and thicken up, but do not stop stirring. You're almost there. Once your roux starts to look like melted chocolate, and the flour almost looks sandy, that's when you want to add your vegetables. Now, it's really important to work quickly here. You want to stir your vegetables in and coat every single piece with that roux. The roux is still cooking, and so the vegetables are going to help cool that down and release moisture, which will prevent the roux from burning. But don't stir too fast, because that molten roux can jump out and burn you, just like lava out of a volcano. And then, always salting as we go, add another pinch of salt. Now that we're back to multitasking, we can prepare some garlic, which involves taking each clove and giving a good whack, and then chopping them up real fine before adding them back to the other vegetables. After mixing that in, we're going to add a full can of crushed tomatoes along with an equal part of water. Then we can add our meat, and I'm going to do something controversial depending on which part of the country you're in, which is add beans to my chili, a can of garbanzos and a can of black beans, followed by several things that will add more flavor, such as a giant pinch of oregano, a quarter cup of soy sauce, and a few dashes of, listen closely, Worcestershire sauce. The benefits of living in Boston for 13 years. Then, just let those ingredients hang out in the jacuzzi for a little while. Good things will happen. And the final step is to add the rice. I'm using this wild rice mixture, which takes about 35 to 40 minutes to cook, but you could also use a white rice, which would probably take about 20 minutes. And that's going to produce a really thick, heavy, stick-to-your-ribs type of chili. And to help brighten this up, I like to add a couple elements of acid, such as a dollop of Greek yogurt right in the middle, and a lime wedge that you can squeeze on top. And then to add some herbal freshness, I like to chop up cilantro and sprinkle that all around. And what you have is a fantastic, fully balanced meal that will fuel you all week long. It's got protein, carbs, and veggies all in one dish, not to mention, it's bringing the flavor, which is only going to get better throughout the week. So when you put this in some burritos, it's going to be awesome. And when you treat it like a bolognese sauce and use it with pasta, it's going to blow your mind. Or you can use it in a variety of other ways that are even more creative. The possibilities are truly endless when at the beginning of the week, you make yourself a giant pot of Jachalaya.